Yes, students, we are going to discuss again in continuation. This is going to be the last lecture for work, energy, and power. Today, we are going to discuss perfectly inelastic collision. Definitions are already with you. So, when we talk about perfectly inelastic collision, you all know that two bodies, when they are coming with certain velocities, they collide. After collision, they stick to each other. They are not getting separated. Rather, they both together move with the same velocity. Like example, you can keep it in your mind, like if you fire a bullet in a wooden block, and then wooden block and the bullet both together moves up to some distance. They may go up to some height if their wooden block is tight, or if it is kept like that, like we have taken the example, if you throw the mud on the wall, it sticks on the wall. So the things are not getting separated, they are getting stick to each other. So for this type of collision, perfectly inelastic collision we call it, and I want to find that what will be the loss in the kinetic energy, because linear momentum is always conserved in all type of collisions, whether it is elastic or inelastic, but in inelastic collision kinetic energy is not conserved. So that is our previous knowledge. So here today we have to derive the expression that if kinetic energy is not conserved, it means there is going to be some loss in the kinetic energy, and we want to find that loss in kinetic energy. So it is a direct question with you that you have to derive the expression for the loss in kinetic energy when there is perfectly inelastic collision in one dimension I am talking about. So we are assuming two bodies again, masses m1 and m2. We may name the bodies as A and B for our convenience. u1 and u2, they are the speeds, or you may say the velocities in a given direction when I am taking along the x-axis. Let after moving through some distance, both the bodies collide. And of course, for collision to take place, u1 has to be greater than u2. That if you wish, you may mention u1 should be greater than u2, then only the bodies will collide. And after collision, we are supposing that they both move together with a common velocity, and the common velocity is v. And v velocity is there, that is along the same direction, because we are sticking ourselves to motion in one dimension in this particular derivation. Now, because linear momentum is conserved, so you may say that initial momentum it is equals to final momentum, or final momentum equals to initial momentum, whatever way you may write. Now you can write the initial momentum will be equals to m1 u1 plus m2 u2, and final momentum, both the bodies m1 plus m2, they move with common velocity v, so final momentum will be m1 plus m2 multiplied with v. So you can equate this both initial and final momentum, and I'm able to write it like this. And from here you can find the velocity, which is the common velocity v, it is equals to m1 u1 plus m2 u2 divided by m1 plus m2, simply by rearranging this equation first. Now, because we are saying that it is an inelastic collision, kinetic energy is of course not conserved. So, I am writing the kinetic energies before the collision and after the collision. Now, before the collision, if I write the kinetic energy, that is equals to half m1 u1 square plus half m2 u2 square, because I have to add both these kinetic energies of the first body and the second body which are going to collide. And when they collide, after collision, they are moving with the common velocity v, so kinetic energy will be equals to half of m1 plus m2 into v square. Now, if you want to find the change in kinetic energy, simply you subtract the two and see whether it is coming with positive sign or coming with negative sign. Accordingly, you can decide whether there is going to be loss or there is going to be gain in the kinetic energy. So, if the loss is there, then it means final kinetic energy should be less than the initial kinetic energy. So, I am assuming my assumption says that there has to be loss in the kinetic energy, and kinetic energy will get lost in the form of heat or in some sound it can produce, sound energy it can be there. So I'm going to find the loss assumption to be true. So I'm finding the loss in kinetic energy, that is given by delta K. I can write that is initial kinetic energy minus final kinetic energy. So I know these values of the V I have calculated by simply following the simply following the law of conservation of linear momentum. So I'm putting the value of V here, that is equals to m1 u1 plus m2 u2 divided by m1 plus m2, and rest of all the terms are remaining same. Now if you take the square of this, because here in the formula I am having v square, so the square of this is to be taken, so you can work it out as 1 m1 plus m2 in the numerator and 1 in denominator will get cancelled, and I am left with simply 1 m1 plus m2 in denominator, and in numerator you have to open the square bracket and you can write it as m1 u1 square plus m2 u2 square plus 2 m1 m2 u1 u2. Rest of the things are remaining same. It means initial kinetic energy I can write the same way, minus 1 by 2. Simply this m1 plus m2 is getting cancelled because here I have to take the square of it. So now if you solve it, then of course you can find the things. This is actually the difference. But to see our results, to make our calculations easy, what we are assuming that let the second body is at rest so that the collision can take place immediately as you leave the first body. So if you are taking u2 equals to 0, then you will be able to conclude easily. So in this expression, wherever in the term u2 is being used, that you put equals to 0. So if I am putting this term equals to 0, similarly these two terms will also become equal to 0, and then you can rewrite the equations simply by taking u2 equals to 0. I am getting change in the kinetic energy, means initial minus final. I am able to get half m1 u1 square minus 1 by 2, and in bracket I am left with m1 u1 square divided by m1 plus m2. And now if you solve it, then you will be able to get this half. Of course you can take it out, m1 plus m2 you take it as the LCM, and then you multiply this with m1. u1 square is common in both, u1 square also I have taken out. So inside I am left with this m1 multiplied with m1 is m1 square, and here it is minus of m1 square because half is out, u1 square is out. So this m1 square will get cancelled, and I am left with m1 m2 in the numerator. In the denominator it is m1 plus m2, and of course half u1 square is common, which is taken out. So this you can is coming out to be a positive quantity. It means there is, my assumption is true. If I get this quantity as negative, it means there is not the loss but rather the gain. So that I can decide. If you want to take difference as final minus initial, then it will come as with the negative sign, which will show that there is going to be loss in the kinetic energy. So you can be asked with this question directly that yes, prove that there is loss in kinetic energy, or this value they may ask you to derive that how much is the loss in the kinetic energy. In that case, you should be able to do this mathematics and to get this expression for the loss in kinetic energy. The next thing, that is, if I have these collisions in 2 dimensions. Now this is very important because you have to see when I am in 2 dimension, then I have to decide that which quantity is a vector quantity, which quantity is the scalar quantity. So here we are assuming that m1 and m2 two bodies are there. They are moving with velocities u1 and u2. Of course, I may take this body at rest for my convenience. Second body u2 I may take equals to 0. Then things will become easy with me. So I am assuming that let u2 is 0. Now after the collision, what happens? One body m1 is moving in this direction, m2 is moving in the other direction. They are making some angles. I am assuming let theta 1 and theta 2 with the x-axis. Now if these angles are known to you, you have assumed the angles, you can always resolve this momentum. m1 v1 product of mass and velocity gives you the linear momentum. You can resolve this momentum into the components. So along the x-axis, I will be getting p1 cos theta 1, or I may write m1 v1 cos theta 1. Similarly, perpendicular component will be m1 v1 sin theta 1, and you can resolve p2 also, m2 v2, it means into cos theta and sin theta components. Because when I go with the linear momentum conservation now, I have to take it as the vector quantity. So in a particular direction, I will be able to conserve. Along x-axis, I will conserve separately. Along y-axis, I will conserve separately, as we have discussed during the projectile motion also. So whenever I am in two dimension, I have to take care of the various things. You need to understand it. Now I am taking, this is perfectly elastic collision. Perfectly elastic collision, it means your linear momentum is conserved as well as kinetic energy is also conserved. So both are conserved, linear momentum and kinetic energy. Now linear momentum is a vector quantity. So whenever you will write the equation for conservation of linear momentum, you will take care of its vector nature. While kinetic energy is a scalar quantity, so that equation will remain same as we have written earlier in one dimension. So you should be in a position beta to write these equations for the conservation of linear momentum and kinetic energy. So now if I have, because assumed that u1 is the velocity which is along x-axis. So there is no initial velocity along the y-axis, and u2 I am taking equals to 0, means velocity for the second body, I am taking second body at rest. But you all are supposed to write these things, that u2 it is equals to 0. Now if you go with writing the conservation of linear momentum along x-axis, then it means m1 u1 is before the collision, and after the collision along x-axis I am having both these components along x-axis, that is m1 v1 cos theta 1 and m2 v2 cos theta 2. So I have to add both because for both the direction is same, that is x-axis. So along x-axis, when you write the equation, you are getting m1 u1, it is equals to m1 v1 cos theta 1 plus m2 v2 cos theta 2. Now if I want to write along y-axis conservation, now there is no component of velocity before the collision along the y-axis. So it means initial momentum before the collision, that is equals to 0, and final, if you see, I am getting one component m1 v1 sin theta 1 is along the positive of y-axis, while the another component m2 v2 sin theta 2, that is along the negative axis. So by convention, I am taking this as the, of course, positive, and this along the negative axis, so negative sign. So I am writing it as m1 v1 sin theta 1 minus m2 v2 sin theta 2. Now kinetic energy is scalar, so simply you can write the conservation initial kinetic energy, that is half m1 u1 square, that has to be equals to the final kinetic energy, that is equals to half m1 v1 square plus half m2 v2 square. Now you see I am having four unknown quantities, v1, v2, theta 1, theta 2, and equations I could write only three. So at least one quantity has to be given so that I can solve my problem. Either theta 1 or theta 2 should be given so that I can find v1 and v2. So only these equation framing should be clear to you, and then in the numericals you can work out with the things as per your requirement. Similarly, even if you are doing in one dimension, if you don't remember the formula, you simply write the equations for conservations of linear momentum and kinetic energy and just simply solve it out to get your results. So this is all about the theoretical part. One or two questions I have taken more clear with you. This is one question. I'm reading the question for you. A ball is dropped from a height h1 and it rebounds the ground a number of times. I'm releasing a ball from a height, I'm supposing, I'm releasing it from the height small h, and it comes and reaches the ground and rebounds with some velocity v1, then it reaches to some height, then it comes back again to ground and then rebounds. This is what is said in the question. I have simply drawn the diagram by reading the question. Given that the coefficient of restitution is small e, to what height does it go after the nth rebonding? The question is asking you to find the height. It is dropped from height small h, it is given in the question. To what height does it go after nth rebonding? This is to be answered. So the question firstly you have to read, and then we have already discussed coefficient of restitution is the ratio of the relative velocity of separation to the relative velocity of approach. Now here if it is approaching with velocity v naught, it is striking the ground first. Initial velocity is 0. So velocity of approach will be v naught minus u naught. That is velocity of approach. And velocity of separation will be v1, and what will be the final velocity? Of course, it will reach to a height till its final velocity becomes 0. It means velocity of separation will be given by the velocity with which it is rebounding. So after nth time, if it is rebounding with vn velocity, then I can write formula of E from my knowledge, that is equals to vn minus 0 divided by v naught minus 0. So no need to write 0 all the time. So I can write simply vn upon v naught. If you want to understand how I have got this formula, then you can do n times rebonding. That will be for every time you write, of course, this v1, v1, v2, v2, so on, they will get cancelled. I am left with last term in the numerator and the first term in the denominator. And if I write the equation in terms of height, this velocity v naught, that is equals to square root of 2gh by the third equation. Similarly, for nth rebonding, I write, if I assume that capital H is the height up to which it reaches, then I can write Vn, it is equals to square root of 2g capital H. And if I put these values of Vn and V naught, I will be able to get the expression for the height to which this body will reach, that is coming out to be small h into e square. So it means it will depend upon the coefficient of restitution. If it is perfectly elastic collision, E is 1, then capital H will be equals to small h. It means it will reach up to the same height from it where you drop the ball. If it is perfectly elastic collision, then E will be 1. But if it is inelastic collision, as in most of the cases on the real life we are having inelastic collision, then E will be less than 1, then capital H has to be less than small h. So this you can conclude. If they further extend the question, ask you about whether this height will be same or it will be less or it will be more, then also you should be able to answer the question. With you, that is a ball moving with a speed of 9 meters per second strikes an identical ball. This is to be noted. It means M1 and M2 masses of two balls is equal. M1 it is equals to M2. such that after collision the direction of each ball makes an angle 30 degree with the original line of motion. Now original line of motion, I will assume it as the x-axis for my convenience, or wherever I assume that I can take as the x-axis, and y-axis can be taken perpendicular to it. This you need to do the assumption by your choice. You have to find the speed of the balls after collision. Now, is the kinetic energy conserved in the collision process? It means whether the collision is elastic or inelastic. You have to simply answer by calculating the things. By calculating velocity, initial velocity is given 9 meters per second. Identical ball which is there at rest. So u2 is 0. Angle thetas are given 30 and 30, theta 1 and theta 2 both are equal. So if I am using the linear momentum conservation along x-axis, then initial momentum before collision, that is equals to m into 9 m1 v1 plus m2 u2, m1 u1 plus m2 u2. u1 is 9, u2 is 0. And final momentum after collision I will get, of course, after resolving the velocities, I can simply multiply it with the masses to get the momentum. So mass is small m for both the balls. So I have simply resolved the velocities and then I am multiplying it with mass. So mv1 cos 30 plus mv2 cos 30. This is along x-axis components. Along y-axis, if you see the components, that is v1 sin 30 and v2 sin 30 in the negative direction. So along x-axis, when you have written the equation, you can always put the values whatever are given, like initial velocity is given 9, cos 30 you know it is root 3 by 2, small m will get cancelled on both the sides. I am getting v1 plus v2, it is coming out to be 18 by root 3, or I can write it as 6 root 3. Now if you write the equation along y-axis, initial momentum is 0, no velocity is along the y-axis, but final momentum is m1 v1 sin 30 minus m v2 sin 30. m1 and m2 both are equal, so it is written as small m only. So sin 30 is 1 by 2. You can put the values, and we are getting v1 minus v2 equals to 0. It means v1 it is equals to v2. Now if v1 it is equals to v2, from this first equation you can find the other velocity. Like I have calculated v1, twice of v1 it is coming out to be 6 root 3. It means v1 is 3 root 3 and v2 is also 3 root 3. Now if you want to see whether the collision is elastic or inelastic, you have to find the kinetic energy before the collision and after the collision. So simply by using the formula of kinetic energy, half mv square, you can find it. For before the collision it is 1 by 2 m and velocity is given 9 for the first body. For second body at rest, I am getting 81 by 2 m times. I am getting it as 81 by 2 times the mass of the body in joule. I am getting this kinetic energy. Similarly, if you find the kinetic energy after collision, then I am getting 1 by 2 m. v1 is 3 root 3 square and v2 is also 3 root 3. So if you solve it, I am getting 27 times the mass of the body, mass of one ball, that is again in joules. So you can see both the kinetic energies are not coming equal. If you solve it, it is coming nearly 40 times m, while this is 27 m. So there is loss on the kinetic energy. So the collision is of course inelastic collision. So because kinetic energy is not conserved and both are not, you have to see, both are not sticking to each other. If they stick to each other, then I can say perfectly inelastic collision, but they are not sticking to each other. They are moving in different directions. So it is an inelastic collision. So these type of questions. Thank you everyone.